Welcome, and we're back. We got another one. So, welcome to Epic Lunch and Learn, the show where real estate meets real talk. This is your lunch break into a master class. I'm Dante Royster, mortgage broker, author, and your guide through the mortgage maze. I'm so glad that you're here. But before we dive in, don't forget to make sure you give this a like or drop us a comment. We'll have comments coming in. I appreciate the comments. That helps the conversation go on. We are here for you. We want to answer your questions, make sure that you feel comfortable knowing what's available in the marketplace. And before we dive in, I couldn't think of a better person to explore this with. Is Wendy Lee. Wendy has seen just about every angle of real estate: first
Mhm.
time buyers, resales, investment properties, short sales, and even leasing. She knows the industry inside and out, but what makes her special is how she listens first, then leaps into action. That's the energy that I want to continue and carry into 2025. And I'm so glad and thankful for her to join me today. Welcome,
Well,
Wendy.
thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me, Dante. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while.
It's been a while since we did a deal together, but we'll definitely make sure we have some other opportunities to get on,
Fair
to
enough.
do some collabs and works with and helping some clients this year or into next year, right?
Exactly. We
Hmm.
kind of talked about it earlier, and even in our conversations leading to this, it's about education, it's about strategies that maybe are just being overlooked per se, or maybe just never been. Oh, I never thought of it that way. And using your expertise, your knowledge, your years in the business, and also your transactions that you've done to kind of utilize your skill set, and that's what obviously I wanted to bring you on and let's talk about some strategies and just what's going on in real estate today.
Sure. Oh boy, what isn't in real estate these days, right? It's certainly a blessing to be able to have been in the industry as long as I have, 24 years and counting and going in strong. I have seen some ups and some true downs in the marketplace. But what I love to see that is that we are, as an industry, right? Realtors, lenders, we are being forward thinking and being able to make sure that we stay on top of the market, get a pulse on the market, and have solutions and products that make sense for the client, right? So then that it doesn't, if you will, back in the day, right? People who used to be self-employed couldn't get a mortgage, right? And now they're able to do that. The DSCR loans for investors. So all the opportunities that are made available is that we're always ongoing and constantly thinking about what we need to do to make sure that we stay essential. COVID certainly showed us that we can be essential, and what we can do, what we do is relevant, and always will always be. What's the word I'm looking for? We're always going to be important, right? Even with the advent of the AI and the power of AI, I truly don't believe that we will be replaced, because you still have to have the human element to become a realtor and helping clients, right? Because at the end of the day, it's the biggest transaction you'll ever have, and you can't just have a computer or a robot, right, helping you with the decision. Sure, it can be precise in the regards to helping you calculate cap rates or a return on investment, but it's still something that needs the human element of emotion to be able to make the connect the dots, if you will.
No, definitely. I love that you brought that up, because AI is reshaping the world and also
Hmm.
industries. And
Hmm.
I just saw an article that said, five industries that are going to go out of business, because AI is here. And to your point, it will look a little different, but some of the expertise that you possess on how to get a deal negotiated, that is priceless. That
Hmm.
cannot be replaced by AI. The complexities of the borrower is different. Nowadays we have borrowers that are making money off of Coinbase, right? Bitcoin.
Hmm.
We have
Isn't that crazy?
it's crazy,
Hmm.
but so it's like there's complexities. I mean, just what we're doing today, right? We're streaming live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. The platform eventually will be monetized, And when it
Hmm.
is monetized, there's a source of income there. That's going to go on your tax returns. That's going to be a little bit different. The nuances of the consumer has changed on how they make money. There's so many ways to make money. And so I don't know if AI can just duplicate what I do.
No, I mean, it certainly can. Let's say this, like when we talked about technology earlier, about it being faster or slower, it certainly can supplement and enhance what we do. But again, to be able to have that eye, to be able to again pick out, because I don't know the full side and scope of it as it relates to the lender side, but as it relates to maybe what an underwriter does, it may
Sure.
be a little bit more precise in that matter. But being a loan officer, I always hear about people talking about having to be able to package the file
Correct.
and doing it right. It's still having that eye, having the experience that has allowed us to be in business as long as we have and working the files we have, because we just have that feeling that again an AI robot cannot do. Because you know I was thinking about this, as I was talking about this. I went and sat in on a presentation that a lender, they basically, the whole entire process was based off of using AI and being able to have that preciseness and the thought process behind it. But what I think lacks is again the human element. The human element is what's going to keep us in place and keep us relevant and essential. Because yes, AI will enhance what we do, but it certainly won't replace us. So what we can do is work together to partner. And what they say, right, or at least in my industry, right, a realtor won't be replaced, but it certainly will be replaced by a realtor who does use AI,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see,
Well,
but we'll see.
I mean, we're consultants,
Hmm.
and we're people that are going to help you with not only the education and
Hmm.
making it make sense. Sometimes when you go into using AI, it's going to give you the definition of something, but it
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily just because you have the definition. What does it mean? Maybe you need a
Yeah.
further example of. I need
Yep.
some
Explanation.
more
Hmm.
information. Like
Hmm.
I want
Agreed.
to make sure that
Okay. Hold on a second. Why are we
it's
getting
clear.
complications?
Those are the slight issues.
You're breaking up. Sorry, well, you were breaking up a second ago. So hopefully that has cleared up.
Yeah, it's a little
But
slow right now.
okay. Also, you're feeling it. You're
Yeah.
dealing with it too. Then.
Uh, I have a question
Mm-hmm.
for you. Do you
I'm sorry. You're frozen. You're frozen. You're frozen. Sorry. You said you asked the question and you froze up. So can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, Dante.
trees?
Mm.
Just read an article about that. Are you back on?
Yes, you're popping in and out.
You
So,
you got me?
uh, yep. Let me see. Let's try this again. Okay. Let's try this again. Testing.
Can you hear me now, Wendy?
Yes, I can. Hmm.
Sometimes
This
you
is
can't control
crazy.
the internet wave.
So, are you
I
having
mean,
this
it's not
slowdown
raining
on your
over
end as
here,
well, or just me?
so I really don't know.
Hmm. Are you experiencing the delay, or is it just on my end?
Better? Yeah, I was curious. Do you think it's changing how buyers search for homes, and how do you believe agents should serve their clients?
Well, I mean, I think that AI can certainly help with the search. Um, though I still think that people are still um, looking at AI from the perspective of doing research, or maybe doing the opportunity. to what's the word I'm looking for? Like, what realtors do as it relates to getting a better description, and it's just more to really tune in and get a proper way of putting everything in a concise picture
Mhm.
versus going through a search, right? So they can certainly use it. And at the end of the day, right, the powers of AI, I mean, what can it do these days, right?
Sure.
And so I feel that it certainly can enhance what a buyer is doing, but I think that they are still going to the sites of Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com, right? And of course, those companies are leveraging AI to help them with procuring and securing more buyers on their platforms, right? So that I think that AI is helping to that different perspective, if you will. But
Mhm.
I don't think it's going to ultimately replace it. I think that there are still people who still trying to drive by. I couldn't believe this the other day. This was probably about a few months ago when I still saw, or I still not even saw, but heard a client tell me that they were driving around looking at properties. I said, "You still drive around looking for properties?" So technology is certainly an advance, and I heard something. Who said this the other day? It was an AI class, but they said that AI is evolving to the point where it's doubling in its power every 3 months. So, like, even what you learned today being September, even what you learned in June 1st is not even, I wouldn't say not relevant, but it's become more powerful since
Mhm.
June, right? So
Yeah.
I think that it's going to continue to help make things work better. But again, it's not going to be the replacement. I
Yeah.
don't believe so.
On the lending side, obviously, the two things that come to mind, to your point, was underwriting.
Mm-hmm.
If a loan is, AUS approval, AUS is an automated underwriting system. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
to some degree, lending has had AI for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a way to basically remove redlining. Right,
Mm-hmm.
redlining was a thing
Mm-hmm.
where maybe someone was biased towards an ethnic group and did not allow them to go ahead and purchase a property in a specific location. So they said, "Hey, we're going to put in this computer software." The beginnings of AI, and the AI is going to determine basically if you're approved or you're not approved, and that's
Mm-hmm.
through the automated track. So it removes some of that, preference preferential treatment that some people may have received. So
Sure.
we're seeing those can be underwritten by AI nowadays, right? So I could submit a file and I can get a file approved quicker. I could get a file where I don't have to wait 3 to 5 business days because I'm waiting on a underwriter who has a stack of files on her desk and she has to get through 9 files a day. And we have, 39,000 people that are trying to do a real estate transaction. So it does give me that opportunity to have a little bit more speed as far as turn times to accommodate, realtors such as yourself on purchase
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
contracts. The
Sure. That definitely would
second
be a
thing,
benefit.
obviously, we see on AI is the automated, or excuse
I
me,
can't
we
hear
have a
you. There we
client
go. There we go. You were
that's
breaking up
going to
again.
put, 20, yeah. We can use automated evaluations up to loan board with the automated evaluation.
Hmm.
So that's a situation that can definitely, help us.
You're breaking up again,
It
Dante.
doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to replace what I do, as I kind of am the timelines to be able to be met and matched. And that's
Mm-hmm.
so important, especially when we have, a buyer wanting to buy in a certain timeline and a seller that wants to sell in a certain timeline. We can accommodate those. Efficiency can definitely help. As experienced loan officer.
For
So,
sure.
ladies and gentlemen, we are. Wendy, are you still with me? I don't know if it's
It's
a
popping in and
down or
out.
situation. Are you back again?
You're popping in and out.
Yeah, I don't know. I Yeah, it was fine. If it was raining or if it was a tornado, I'd be a little worried. But you know, it's a sunny day. 60 degrees is a little cold. Maybe the
Mhm.
internet's like, why is it so cold in the beginning of September?
Possibly.
You
Who knows? Who knows?
the Farmer's Almanac says we're going to have an early winter this year.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, so
Hey,
for the
you never know, right? We haven't had the 100-degree weathers in quite some time, so we shall see. We shall see.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. What's going to happen. I was curious. Do you feel that obviously with interest rates hanging around 6 to 7%, do you see buyers adapting to this as the new normal, or are they still waiting for rates to drop? What are you experiencing?
I think that it comes down to it. What's going on is that buyers were on the fence, and I still think that there are some buyers that are on the fence. I really feel bad for the first time home buyers right now that are on the market now, because I mean, prices are higher, the cost of everything is higher, the interest rates are higher, and so it's harder for them to find things. Because what I heard, something was really funny the other day. Buyers are still thinking, are hoping for 2008 prices, while sellers are thinking it's 2021 prices, right? So there's that disconnect right there. But ultimately, rents are what's going on is, I believe, rents are really driving the marketplace right now, with the how can I say it? It's not being able to even have, if you will, a kind of a rule of thumb of how much your rent's going to go up every year, right? But it's just like just a random number that they want to go ahead and up the number to. Like, I had a prospective client that wanted to try to buy something because their landlord raised their rent. This is about maybe a year and a half ago, and the new landlord raised the rent by $1,000. And I'm
Wow.
like, okay, how do you justify? Who really has an extra $1,000 in their bank account a month, every month, to go pay towards rent, right? So then I think that's when um I'm sorry, that's when tenants are motivated to want to go ahead and do something. And that's what I'm seeing more. And I think what we do as lenders, realtors, right, financial experts, we're steadily pounding the social media platforms, and steadily educating and steadily reminding them, hey, do what you got to do to control your economy. Do what you got to do to control how your monthly payment goes out for housing, right? Monthly payment for housing is a big number, right? So how do you control that, right? You can
Mhm.
control that by way of paying for a mortgage, right? Yes, you'll still have insurance and taxes going up, and that will raise your monthly payment, but it's not going to raise it to the point where you can control it by way, again, your landlord raising it by $700, $800, $1,000 a month, right? So that's, I think, that is one of the things that is driving people to really go out there and buy. Now the reality is, again, one of the things that we do all the time is, like, we can't more than ever stress the importance. Don't think those 2 and 3% interest rates are coming back, right? When you think about, a 6% is coming closer to what we were to um,
The
prior to
pandemic.
all of the COVID times, right? In
Mhm.
fact, we at Exit Realty, we are a big Brian Buffini coaching company follower and all that, right? And they did we listened to their bold predictions, and that's something as a realtor who's watching, or even a buyer at the end of the day who's watching. They really have a pulse on the market as a marketing company, coaching company that has been in the industry for 35 years, right? And Brian Buffini has been able to speak in front of, or speak not just in front, but speak with all of the different Federal Reserve lending partners and the Federal Reserve management and top brass, right, where they are actually having Lawrence Yun as the top economist on National Association of Realtors getting on board every year, right, to give a pulse of the market, what the interest rate is. But anyways, with all that being said, we listened to a bold predictions segment about maybe 3 weeks ago, and basically he said that we are running around with our heads cut off like a chicken, right? Where the market where we are now today in 2025 is exactly the market in 2019. If you look at data is what is the biggest thing that we need to be able to support and guide our decisions on, right? And the the number of transactions, the number of homes, all of that mirrors today to what it is in 2019. So a lot of the stuff of what we're going through is noise. And sure, there's reality is this. It's going to be a pulse on his pulse on what he has in California with the high value properties are different than maybe where we are at in the Midwest and what we're experiencing, right? But at the end of the day, they're looking at a national pulse, not just a local pulse. I think that there is a lot of noise that people tend to follow. Oh, how many realtors only did one transaction a year, or they didn't even do a transaction a year, and so they think, oh no, um, people will get out of the industry, right? But if you really keep your head to the grind, turn off all the noise, you will be able to still be able to find the people that want to be able to buy. I'm working with 3 buyers right now, a couple of sellers and renters at this moment, right? So at the end of the day, it's not to say that you can't, right, buy in this industry or in this environment. You have to be able to find what's right. And being able to be in the industry as long as I have, and knowing the marketplaces, to be able to think out of the box to help people is really what's going to really be your differentiating factor of how you can become successful at what you do.
No, that's well said. It is so important because it's the experience. You listening to Brian Buffini, who I'm a fan of. I'm very familiar with his stuff. I actually use his CRM, and just knowing that information, right? Because that's the problem, nowadays, and it doesn't look like it's going to slow down. It's just only going to increase. Where there's
Hmm.
so much noise. There's so
Hmm.
much noise,
Hmm.
and really, that's to some degree, that is one of the reasons why I even created this platform of like saying, hey, if everyone is going in this direction, let me be there and give real information and not, kind of this noise. Because,
Hmm.
to your point, if the inventory is as equivalent to 2019, pre-pandemic, there's enough inventory out there for everybody. You don't have to feel scared, but that's what, unfortunately, media does to get the clicks, get
Hmm.
you eyeballs watching, is, they get you on
Hmm.
fear and, oh my
Hmm.
God, and anxiety, and all that has heightened across the board when I hear with people. But the information is solid that there's enough out there. There's a great opportunity. There's down payment assistance still. The government is assisting in that way. There's grant money that's available.
Hmm.
So we're trying to reduce how much money you have to bring to closing. That's first and foremost, and just the opportunities that are there. But you have to be willing. You do have to kind of work it. I always tell everybody they got to work it like a second job. Like you work that 9 to 5 to make your money, and then you got to go out and go make it happen. You're going to have to look and find that property. Now, you have devices and mechanisms, realtor.com, Zillow, Redfin, whatever you prefer, and that can give you an idea, but that's window shopping. Because,
Hmm.
hey, I'll give credit. All these listing agents do an amazing job with taking these pictures. And then you go out to these homes, you're like, man, I thought this was a big room and it's not so big after all.
The magic of a wide angle lens.
My
Or
goodness.
even now, you have all these the AI staging. I saw a listing this morning online, and it was just one picture of the front of the property, and even that picture had the line at the bottom says virtually staged. I'm like, okay, if you're gonna make the front of the building look not even real, then that's scary, right? What is really going to be? So like what you said earlier about buyers
Yeah.
looking at real estate, how is that going to enhance um or even, if you will, take a buyer's aback, right? Because what you see is what you may not get at the end of the day. You know? Did I did we get frozen again?
Right.
Oh, there we
But
go.
yeah, it's almost equivalent to buying a property sight unseen. You're gonna
Yeah,
have to
those
physically go out
days,
there and
yeah.
really look at these properties because the pictures. I mean, just like everything, even with the news, you
Hmm.
almost you have to touch it, see it, and be there to know if it's really real. And
Sure.
that's the thing with the AI has kind of, unfortunately, has kind of put us in a situation where it's like, well, did that really happen? I don't know. I mean, because you could make, nowadays you can literally take, I mean, that's just what is available with AI stuff. And it could be for fun, but it could also be for bad,
Hmm.
so
Agreed.
you can't, you almost, so it's true. Yeah. So true seeing is believing. I have to physically go out to that property. I have to walk in these rooms and verify, hey, or I'm going to have to do some more math and understand what dimensions are. I'm going to have to know what. Got some
Well,
questions here.
and
This
that's
is
one of
good.
the things about measurements, right? A lot of times an empty room is always going to look smaller than what it is, right? I always advise the client to go back and measure their own bedrooms to see, because you say, oh, it's small. I said, no, just I understand where you're coming from, but a room that is empty can always appear smaller. So go back into your own home and look at and measure the room that you're in, and then be able to then do an actual side by side comparison to get a real assessment of what the size is.
Yeah. Hey,
Mhm.
Jeff just wrote in. How do you guide first-time buyers to avoid common mistakes?
Well, in having conversations with clients, well, not even conversations, I have consultation with clients, and that's a great question, Jeff. Really being able to I have a checklist of things that I want to go over with the client, right? Because um, there are a lot of things just like what we do every day online, where we're getting information, or if you will, we referred to it a couple of times in our segment, right, about not the real situation, right? And we want to have real talk. So we want to be able to have that real talk with a client, right? Understanding a property. I just had a conversation earlier with a client where, completely updated is subject to interpretation, right? Because it could mean kitchens and bath is upgraded, but is plumbing upgraded? Is the electrical panel upgraded, right? And kitchens and baths can be updated, but is your furnace and your hot water tank all old? Those are things that people tend to lose sight of at the end of the day, right? Is it
Sure.
out, is it lipstick on a pig? Is it a real renovation and all that stuff? But other things as it relates to common mistakes is that I would even advise a client, and this is what I do, right? Because having not just a sales and marketing background, but understanding construction and all that, right? While the client is around looking at all the bells and whistles and oohing on and looking at everything, right? I also looking at other things like, Okay, is the plumbing updated? Going behind the kitchen cabinets that they are oohing and eyeing over and looking at the plumbing behind it, looking at all the fancy light fixtures, but is the panel updated, right? These are the things that I'm looking at while they're focused on looking again the oohs and ahs. So being able to have that background and also that again, don't just fall to just that, oh, all these things are upgraded, but we want to make sure that, hey, upgraded and functional to support that upgrade is going to be very important, right?
Yeah.
Because what are those 100 amp panels that won't even won't even help with today's modern family, where they are everybody in the household has a phone and their phone is charging and their computer is charging, and they're not, they possibly can be overloading the panels, and just making sure that these are the things that have to be looked at as well, right? Making sure that their maintenance is important. Deferred maintenance is such a costly thing that people don't realize, that I'm always constantly having to remind clients, don't look at, make sure you maintain the property, right? And one of the things that early on in my career that I learned from an older client, that was, and I take this and educate my clients as well, that even though if the house is not completely updated, take the property, as long as it has the solid bones and the solid mechanicals, it's way more important to have that than to have the updated kitchen and bath cabinets, because you can always update those as a project, two projects for a year, one project a year at a time, whatever it is, right? And but that is going to allow you to keep your home maintained. Don't forget to clean your gutters. Don't forget to also have conversations with your insurance and your mortgage companies on an annual basis, right? Are you in the best insurance program coverage, right? I mean, certainly a lot of people probably had a lot of questions regarding and issues regarding the huge storms that we had a couple weeks ago. But these are things that we want to make sure that we stay connected with our clients, so that we can still be, again, it's not just a transaction at the end of the day that I'm working on um, strengthening, but I'm strengthening the value and the relationship that I have with the client, and the value that I continue to bring, which allows me to continue to bring more business for myself and building my business, because I'm helping clients stay. At the end of the day, let's be real. It's not just about being able to buy the house, but being able to stay in the house at the end of the day, right? Especially today with the cost of everything being as high as it is.
Yeah. Wendy, let's get your contact information.
Sure. You can definitely reach out to me on my phone. The cell phone is 847-420-5923. And you can reach me with via email. And my business name is Legacy Realty Group. And so my email is Legacy Realty Group at LEEGACY Realty Group at gmail.com. And I'm also, you can find me on all platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Threads. And so, under Legacy Realty Group, you can definitely find me. Definitely reach out to me. If you want to reach out to me, my mobile business card is text 85377. Text Legacy to 85377. You'll be able to get my mobile business card.
Awesome. Hey, we're going to take a quick time for housekeeping notes. We do have some
Mhm.
housekeeping notes. Obviously, what we were talking about and the way you answered the last question just right there, it reminded me of the concept of being prepared and educated. And
Mhm.
that's really what you were talking about doing, is being a consultant for the buyer. Let me prepare you on what you to expect, what you're looking at, because when a first-time home buyer, especially, is going out to properties, they don't really know what they're looking for. They're
Mhm.
just like, man, this looks nice. But they don't see the little intricacies that can make it the big deal or the big difference, and
Mhm.
that's why we do home inspections. That's why we go through the process that we do. But you can point out some things that say, hey, this is not worth it, or it's overpriced, what have you. One thing that I did was I did write this book right here, right behind me. It's the Ultimate Mortgage Guide. It's a blueprint, and it's really questions that I've received since 2002 when I started, all the way to 2023. I started recognizing, Wendy, that people are still asking me the same questions I was getting in 2002. They're still asking me today, and I knew
Hmm.
that there was a just a lack of knowledge. So I wrote a book, The Ultimate Mortgage Guide. It's available on Amazon. Definitely, if you need that blueprint, go ahead and check it out. We do, after the show on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, Epic Spotlight, we do have a new podcast interview with Brent Wilk. So Brent Wilk was with me. We had a great conversation just about his career. And so when you have an opportunity after this show, make sure you check out the newest podcast, Epic Spotlight. It's on YouTube. And then we have our preferred listings this week. We have some preferred listings. So what we do, Wendy, is we try to partner with realtors like yourself. If you have listings, we go ahead and promote them to our audience. Right now, we have 308 people listening right now, which is awesome. Really appreciate everyone taking the time out to listen. So we always want to encourage them that, hey, we know the listing agent. We can get you pre-approved for this mortgage, and these are some great homes. So we have 8228 South LaSalle in Chicago. It's going for 250,000. It's a 3-bed, 1 bath. Contact Amico Pope, and I'm supposed to give you a new number for Amico. She's like, "Hey, use the other number." I said, "Okay, so hold on 1 second. I forgot about that." It's 312-600-7673. So that's 312-600-7673, and that's for 8228 South LaSalle, Chicago, Illinois. We also have 9049 South Parnell Avenue in Chicago. It's going for 279,980. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath house. Contact Sebastian Kupiec at 773-430-8988. And we have a couple condos here. So we have one condo at 6945 South Dorchester Avenue. I think that's Hyde Park. Unit 2S. It's a 3-bed, 1 bath. Contact Evelyn Wood, 773-718-9742. And we also have 2030 East 72nd Place, Unit 3D. That's actually going for 109,000. It's a 2-bed, 1 bath. Contact Evelyn Woods, 773-718-9742. And we do have some commercial properties. We have a commercial storage in Chicago Heights. We do some commercial lending as well. 1413 East End in Chicago Heights, going for 165. And then we have a commercial storefront at 1645 Western Avenue in Chicago Heights, going for 339. Contact Keith Terry, 773-655-1360. So those are a couple of our preferred listings. I appreciate that. And then, I was curious, Wendy, because I know you, we've done some business together in the past, but how did you get started in this industry?
um, I got into real estate actually by way of it's very interesting. I got laid off by corporate America not once, not twice, but 3 times in 5 years, and I said, this working for corporate America is for the birds. So
Mm-hmm.
I decided, well, actually, it was suggested to me that I get into real estate, and I never looked back. 24 years later, right?
That's
Being
awesome.
able to be your own boss, being able to get into doing something, right? Doing something that you really love, right? I was on a platform in a group this morning discussion where the person asked, like, they just started this job and they were already having anxiety about going to work. I was like, what, did you just start, September 1st and you're already feeling the way you feel? Like, I was like, man, I love what I do, right? So, um, it's really challenging to even look to be like to find time to just say, hey, let's not work. But ultimately, I got into real estate because I got laid off by corporate America, decided to become my own boss, and ever since I have been a realtor full time. But I also, at the end of the day, I champion and work with small business owners all the time, and because I really truly believe that after seeing things happen in the last 20 some odd years, and then after my layoffs, right, and during my layoff time, that at the end of the day, business and working as an entrepreneur is the way to go. And that's the way to be able to control your future and you control your destiny.
No, that's awesome. We got a couple more questions here, so I appreciate that. Ariel writes, "How can buyers spot a great investment property fast?"
That's a great question, and that's what I do all the time. In fact, I am analyzing a couple of properties for a client right now and then helping them identify. One seller has like a 12 or 14 different properties and they're looking to sell their property. And then we're going to go, I'm looking at helping them kind of, if you will, organize where and what to sell first so that they can get maximum return. But to answer your question, Ariel, you're really looking at being able to understand cap rates. And one of the things that I will say as it relates to spotting an investment property, the thing is this: a lot of times online, you have to look at of the rents that are posted, right? Are the rents market rate rent? A lot of times, landlords will be willing to accept a lower rent to be able to keep a tenant right there. So because the highest rent isn't necessarily the best rent, it's the rent that gets paid at the end of the day. So right, but looking at that from that perspective of, okay, what are all the rents? Are the rents market rates? How long are the leases? Are the leases long term or are they constantly turning over every year, right? If you have a long term renter, it definitely helps you, right? Because then you don't have to do as much with the turnover and upkeep, right? Looking at the cost of the expenses, right? The insurance, the all those things are major factors that are incorporated into your issue, or I should say this, it should be incorporated into your decision making, right? And we can certainly, if you like, we can take it offline, Ariel, and discuss this more in detail as it relates to expenses, income, and being able to have the leases supplied, making sure the insurance you've got. One thing that I mentioned earlier is making sure that you also have the ability to check your insurance policies, right? Get every year, get with your insurance rep to give you a quote. Is it comprehensive? Is it a good amount of coverage, right? These are things that are all going to be major factors into it, but it's going to really be dependent. And that's why I like to do what I do, where it's to offer. It's never so much, if you will, a template, right? It's a checklist, but it's also going to be personalized. It's personalized to the property, to the area, to your needs. All those things are going to be important to being able to help decide whether or not it's an investment property best suited for you. Because if you really think about it, there are investors and owners everywhere you go, right? But one may be a good investment for one party, but it may not be for another party because everything is subjective, right? So then it's going to be whether or not it makes sense for them because, again, everybody's an investor or owner of a property, but yet it may not make sense for you. So let's definitely take this down offline and be able to have an opportunity to go one-on-one and answer any question that you have regarding a property.
That's awesome. Ariel, if you're hearing that, please reach out to Wendy after the show. All right, let's do this one. So this looks to be Cody, may be a realtor. I see here. What's the best way to make a strong first impression with buyers?
To be knowledgeable, to be provide value. I have a team of 7, 8 agents on my team, and that's what I preach to them all the time: is to always provide value and have a relationship with the client. Right? I'm forever, even like I have agents that are on my team that are new, that are veteran, but again, it's the little things, right? Because um, to be knowledgeable as it relates to when the tax bill is going out, or when we have the heavy rains, checking in on a client, right? Those are things that even if they're not a client yet, it's somebody that you know that owns a home, right? But because you care and have that relationship with them, knowing that client. I mean, I closed on a client a couple months ago, and I still checking on them all the time. And then there was an event for a back to school event that I shared with them because it was in the community that they bought into, and they reached out and they said thanks so much, this is great, right? But having that relationship is really going to keep you top of mind. But again, it's because you have a relationship and you provided value to them and not just sold them a property. That's what I really feel that is making a strong impression. And they may be at that point, right? If it's it At that point, they may not be your buyers. It may be somebody that um if we were to pull that how can I say that? I say I would have analyzed it. I analyzed it in such a manner that it's not specific to buyers, but it can be general enough. But for a buyer, it's again being able to provide valuable information, know the market that you work for, and really, you're doing your client a disservice and you're doing yourself a disservice if you try to be the realtor for everybody, right? Because if you know the marketplace, if you say you live in um, Oak Lawn, right? But yet you're trying to help a client that lives or wants to buy something in Waukegan, you can't possibly be the expert in Waukegan. Partner and get to know other realtors around the Chicagoland area. And then that way you can refer. In fact, I use Waukegan as an example because I have a client that is looking to buy something by the military bases up in the northern North Shore area, right? So that I'm going to refer that business out to a realtor out in the Waukegan area because I can't possibly serve them because again, I can't provide that value or that knowledge to that client. Then at that point, if I'm fumbling, it's just going to make me look bad, and you might not be able to get that client, secure
But
that client with the deal,
you,
right?
you cannot, I cannot express how much I love that answer. Because, really, if you go back 40 years, in the 80s and 90s, it was the local realtor. And
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a fan of the local realtor because she knew or he knew about the coffee shop that had, the hot coffee, knew about, where to get the good donuts, knew about the good school district to send your kids to, and they just gave you that inside information,
Mm-hmm.
that we needed as a family trying to move into a new environment. And that guidance was like, it was gold. And we kind of, maybe, for a lot of different variables, we don't need to get into it now, somehow we went to this universal realtor. I live in Aurora, but I do downtown Chicago, and then I do Rockford. And it's great that you're willing to work hard and you're going to go all over the place. But we lose something as the consumer. We lose that, like, what do you know about this area? Or are you just selling me a home because this is, it meets my requirements. This meets my criteria. I wanted a 3-bed, 2-bath house, and you stuck me in X city. And it's like, but did you know that they got like pit bulls over there, and we got an abandoned house over here? Like, you didn't really, take the time to know this area for me because you don't live around here. But I
Mm-hmm.
have to live here. I have to pay my mortgage here for the next, 10, 20, 30 years. And so I love that you're willing to say, hey, that's not my expertise. I will refer you to a realtor in there. And that's the beauty of real estate because it has that, kind of co-marketing situations that it allows you to do. So that's a great answer. I love it. Got a couple more questions here and appreciate it. If you guys got more, just keep them coming. Antoine writes, what advice do you give clients feeling overwhelmed by listings?
Okay, that can be interpreted differently. But the way I'll answer it in the way how I interpret it. But if you want more clarity, please, Antoine, reach back out and give me the a different phrase, different way of phrasing it. But ultimately, am I to understand that there may be like too many listings for a buyer to absorb the search process? So at that point, then are you, the one thing that I will say, and I get critiqued about it, um, that I spend too much time on trying to find the right inventory or find the right property for the client, because what I deem as right may not be right for the client, right? And there is a lot of truth to that, right? But to answer your question as it relates to that, right? Because if it is, again, like if you're talking about a 3 bedroom, 2 bath home, what's going to be important to the client for that, for the property, right? If it's in the price point, is it close to where they're at as it relates to support system if they have kids, right? And they need someone to watch their children, right? So look at those things or rank it to that degree, right? What's important to them, right? Is having, things that they talk about how, these are things that you want to have or what must have, right? Jacuzzis and what was the other thing? Jacuzzis and fireplaces are great to have, right? But are they used all the time, right? Well, but yet having an upgraded kitchen or working appliances is important, right? So these are things that you want to talk to the client during your consultation to see what's important to them, right? That's, I think, how you could certainly help with the overwhelm of all listings. But again, because it's about having that consultation and helping them find what makes sense, because there have been clients that have been referred to me where they say, I feel like my client or my realtor is not helping me with the search. But if you have the opportunity to have that sit down with the client and ask those pointed questions on what's important, right? That will help you, and also helping them rank the properties that would help you help them be able to find the right house for them. Hopefully, hopefully I
Awesome.
answered that question.
I took it the same way that a buyer just feels overwhelmed by listings. I mean, I think sometimes um, they need to narrow their search more.
Hmm. Hmm.
If you have all these listings, because you say you're going to be willing to live all the way in Lansing and Waukegan, well, let's consolidate it a little bit closer
Yeah.
proximity, please. All
Hmm.
right.
Hmm.
Um, Damien writes, "How do you know when it's the right time to sell?"
Whew. How do you know when the right time to sell? Like I said, it's going to have to make sense for you as the client, the seller, right? Are you selling because of a job relocation? Are you selling to time the market? Those are two different perspectives, right? Are you selling because you have to sell because there is a need to sell because you need a bigger home or you need to downsize? You have to make sure that it's time to your specific well, no pun intended, time to your timing, right? And not just about the dollar sign, right? Because the dollar sign, you waiting to sell could cost you money when you thought it was making you money.
Mhm.
Now that's a powerful statement, guys, because the thing is when you are timing it to the market, you there are, I mean, in fact, I had one client that did this a couple of years ago. This is before the pandemic. But ultimately they wanted the house their house to be able to sell by at least breaking even. But at the same juncture, by waiting for the market to break even for their house to sell, it costs them more money to buy their next house. So that's why I always say you want to go off of timing and not off of the market. Your timing and not the market's timing, because at the end of the day, it's always going to be a good time to sell and buy because there are people who are looking to buy and there are people who need to sell.
Yeah, I think like the lowest point of the market probably in recent years was 2012. That was like the
Mm,
bottom. And then I think once this all shakes out, probably the peak was somewhere between 23 and 24. If you
mm,
really were trying to time the market, those if you would have got in around 2012 and if you would have got out probably somewhere in 23, 24, you probably would have maximized that equity because we're starting to see some softening.
mhm,
It's starting to triculate. And we've in softening really, and it's really been a master's class of just learning all this stuff. Softening is really the buyers from a macro level saying, "Hey, this is too much. I can't afford it. You got
Hmm.
to come down. I can't afford it. The price, the interest rates, the real estate taxes. It's just too much." And so when you start to see the softening and you start to see people having to bring down the prices to get that interest again, and so I think we're starting to see that a little bit. So I think we've already hit the peak, and now we're going to start working our way down slowly but
Hmm.
surely. But we'll see if we have a rate spike, which everyone anticipates. It might be a different story.
Well, let's say this. What I wanted to say that at the end of the day, guys, there are people who are sitting here on the sidelines, literally waiting for the market to crash. You do not want the market to crash. Okay, we have seen the market crash, and you don't want to see market crashing because it cost everybody when the market crash. It's not just those who are looking to buy or sell. It's literally him impacting everybody, right? So then you want to make sure that you make the decision that's most best suited for you. And certainly, I'm more than happy to take a one-on-one consultation with you offline so that we can discuss what makes the most sense for you guys. Because again, waiting could cost you money, while not waiting could cost you money, but we have to have that opportunity to have the consultation that make the decision or plan of action that makes the most sense for you. I have roadmaps to help clients, right? But again, template is not having a template is not important, right? But having a consultation or a conversation is what's important to helping you just help you chart your way.
Awesome. And let's get one more question in before we wrap this up.
Hmm.
I thought this was a good one. What's the best strategy for pricing a home correctly?
Well, it's definitely not just listening to what the seller wants. No, I'm sorry, sellers. It's not about just the price, right? Um, it's looking at the best way is to really to answer that question succinctly as possible. You need true data to support the price, right? What are the other homes selling for? Are you comparable, right? Three bedroom, two bath does not make you comparable, right? It means that are you updated? Are your mechanicals updated? Right? A house that is updated with new kitchens and baths with an outdated mechanical system that is like you practically have to replace has much less value than those who have new updates. Right? I as I started this conversation an hour ago, talked about how houses that have a new roof and new hot water tank is more important or more valuable to me and will give clients more peace of mind. And I just had that conversation with a client yesterday, right? That when you have those things, that the major ticket items, right? A furnace, a roof, those things are more important than having updated kitchen and updated light fixtures, right? Because at the end of the day, is that's not going to having a leaky roof is not going to give you anxiety versus whether or not the light fixture looks pretty enough, guys. So, but to answer the question about pricing, looking at three bedrooms, apples to apples, right? Is it a three bedroom, two bath, true? Or is it a three bedroom, one and a half bath, three bedroom, one bath, two bedroom, and a den? That's not counted as a three bedroom, though there are some of our counterparts that will try to calculate that or count that as a bedroom, right? I was like, where's the closet, right? That's
Right.
not a bedroom. So that's you look at the number of bedrooms and baths, you look at the mechanicals, are they updated? Is it a cosmetic updates? Go by the comps. Look at the comps from in the immediate area within a four block radius to maybe a mile. Not looking at something that's 2 miles away, right? that, especially in Chicago, in my market, that doesn't work, right? Because we do have what I like to call pockets in the Chicagoland area, and it has to make sense. I'm not going to pull a comparable sale if I'm trying to sell a house in Avalon Park and I'm trying to pull a comp in Beverly. That doesn't make sense,
Right.
right? So it has to make sense. And what other things? Taxes is going to be one big thing. I mean, in the south, or not the south suburbs, but in the suburban area, not just the south suburban areas, everywhere we're seeing taxes are high, right? So that could impact pricing too, because you can have the best price, but if the property taxes are outrageous. I remember a situation. This was back when the market had crashed in '08, and it was after the '08 market, and a client had wanted to look at this house in Park Forest. I will never forget it. It was a newer home, but they all went into foreclosure. The property was listed at, like, and now this, this had to be way longer when the property values were only, it was $45,000 for this house in Park Forest. It was probably like a 2,000 square foot home, but the taxes were $11,000.
Uh,
40,000, $45,000 house and 11,000 taxes. And I said, think about that for a minute. You would have paid your house, buying that house after 4 years of taxes.
right.
So, but these are all things that should be in calculating the bottom line price for your properties. Hope that answers your question.
No, that's great information. Now, Wendy,
Mhm.
let's get that contact information one last time.
All right, you guys can definitely reach out to me, 847-420-5923. I can be found also on all platforms under Legacy Realty Group, and that's LEEGACY Realty Group. And like I said, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Threads. I have a YouTube channel and LinkedIn, and definitely do a mobile business card and text Legacy to 85377. Thank you so much, Dante. It's for having me. I would love to be able to help your any of your clients, agent partners, and helping them be able to scale and really have a successful road ahead in real estate.
No, likewise. No, this is great. I mean, like I said, we've worked in the past. Now getting a chance to work again and bump into
Hmm.
each other. So I appreciate you, and I'm sure our paths will cross. And love to have you back on. Maybe in a month or so.
Sounds like a plan. I'd love to have be back on next month. Then I'll definitely connect with you. Put a date on the calendar.
Sounds good. All right,
All right.
everybody. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
tuning
everybody.
in.
Good luck.
We'll see you next week on
All right.
Monday.
Thank you, guys. All right.
Take care.
Thank you. Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Bye bye.